New season, new time. And I wanted to welcome everyone in. Come on in. And I've been pushing this thing for a while. And we're on 3 years on True House Stories. I'm blessed to come on almost every Wednesday. I can't say every Wednesday. And we've just coming off a hot summer and we're back into some super duper quadruple whoople heat right now. It's like first we have coolness and now we're back to, for the ones over in Europe, 33 degrees or 94, 96 degrees in September. And we're starting a new fall season in a full hot box. And with that, because it's super hot in the game, I'm so glad to welcome back this man. I'm going to, introduce in a second, but I have a big affection and love for New York. As you all know, I lived and grew up in New York and coming from Brooklyn and grew up in Queens and going to the fun house and the garage and all that stuff in Zanzibar and playing out and being blessed to be part of the house music scene. There was guys pre to me that were prevalent in our game. So welcome to True House Stories. I am Lenny Fontana with a new season, YouTube Live, and we're coming in strong and better than ever. And I'm introducing this man. You used to hear it like this. This master mix is mixed by Merlin Bobb. And let me tell you something. A man who broke records on the radio at a time when house music was at its infancy. Larry Levan's playing at the garage, Frankie Knuckles playing at the warehouse. He's got another famous cousin, Tony Humphreys, rocking Zanzibar, and from one station, New York, to another, 107.5 WLS all the way to the right, and 98.7 KISS FM. Imagine that. Two family members, two major stations, breaking music continuously, okay? And taking it from the radio, breaking it into nightclubs, creating a scene with another great DJ, Timmy Regisford, that used to do the Saturday nights in WBLS as well, opening up a club called The Shelter on Varick Street after the Paradise Garage was closed a few years, and creating a whole new era. For that is known as the Shelter era. And those who remember Varick Street and Hudson, how crazy that was and all those all-night parties, okay? And breaking records and then doing what was done before, but doing it their way. And not only that, him going on to become a major executive and bringing all this great talent like Roger Sanchez, discovering, brought Timmy Regisford into Atlantic Records and signed so many house records, 10 City with Marshall Jefferson. I mean, the list goes on and on. He's going to tell you all about that too. But incredible person, multi-talented, used to run 3 things at one time. I used to hear on the radio, I'm going, how's he doing this? Is he running 2 and then having an edit going at the same time? Well, he's going to tell you that too. So that's why we have to call him the Magic Man, Merlin Bobb. So I'd like to welcome to True House Stories today, Mr. Merlin Bobb.
Wow, what an intro.
Merlin, that's the love we have for you, bro. Because I used to remember hearing that mix. Master Mix mixed by Merlin Bobb. It's like, yes, on a Friday night, going out somewhere or going to your club to play, you were on the radio prepping us with the hot new tunes. And this is in the 80s, going right into the 90s, and 10 good, solid, long years.
Yeah.
Welcome, Brother Merlin.
Thank you. And thank you for this platform, man. It's very important to the culture. So that's why I'm more than happy to be here.
A lot of us wondered after Atlantic and Elektra, you were so prevalent as an executive, and you kind of, you didn't leave because you never left. But, things change, as we all know. Technology changes, times change. And you're not on the radio as what you were.
Right.
So people didn't realize what was going on with the Merlin Bobb guy. Where is he? Where's this person? But we knew you were around. And then all of a sudden you came back out, like out of the shadow. Here I am again, playing. Actually, I remember we did the Paradise. Oh, no, I was gonna say Paradise Garage. I'm sorry, excuse me. The Shelter anniversary when I saw you, when you played, and I was doing the hosting for Sal Cremona, and you were playing the opening sets, and it was just like being back when the Shelter opened. So welcome back, and glad you made the circle life back to the Wheels of Steel.
That's life for sure. It brings you full circle when you least expect, and it's been a harmonious journey. And I'm glad to be back. And that night was the night that I decided, with the inspiration from some good friends, from Louie and Timmy and Kerry Chandler and Master Kev and Spinner and Clark Kent. They all bust my chops like, Negro, you should get back out there and start playing again. You have time now. You consult now. You do things that you want to do. You've had a long journey, and it just convinced me to do so. And I couldn't figure any reason why not to. So I'm enjoying it now, and I'm spinning again. That's, yes, to have fun primarily, but I want to be a part of the continual journey of the genre of music that I believe myself and so many of my peers started in New York and Chicago and Detroit and Baltimore and New Jersey back in the late 70s, early 80s. So, I'm here to do shows like this and to do other things that are important to the culture, and to set the history straight going forward is very important too. So I'm grateful for what, like I said, I'm grateful for what you're doing and so many others, and that I can be a part of it still.
And everybody always says to me, "Damn, Lenny, you know everybody." It's not easy getting people like you to come on because you don't talk all the time with certain fellas. Like I don't see you all the time. I mean, we ran into each other, and we had that moment of, "Hey, what's happening at the Shelter thing?" And it was just, you just want to get people to hear you because they never got to hear you unless they were in your office hanging out with you or talking to you or
Right,
signing a record, A&R,
right,
or they were coming up at the Days WLS to maybe try to play a record to see if you would somehow get it in programming, or jockey the DJ. Yo, bro, can you play this new track that we just did? But it's not like that anymore. So, everybody thinks it's real easy to just get on social media and send messages. And a lot of times people don't respond, which is, I can understand why, because you don't know who you're talking to.
right,
But
right.
glad that we're all here, and
Well, I've always been pretty much on the DL. My professional life is just like my personal, and I like to keep business, and my family life and my kids and everything else. They know that that's just how I've always been, and it's actually helped me have this long career, actually, because I can move in the way that I want to move, and accomplish the things I want, but I'm doing it for the purpose of not trying to boast and not trying to be all out front and not trying to build myself up, but more so for the cause. Whatever that cause is what I work hard for. So, it's not about anything else. So if, like I said, if someone contacts me and if it's something that I think is definitely worth it and meaningful, then I'm open to it sometimes.
all right, so let's get right into it, brother man. Real simple question. How's music find you as a kid, or you find the music? Take us on this journey. We got to hear this.
Wow, how I found music as a kid. Wow. Um, I have to go all the way back to my grandfather playing consistently jazz every weekend, showing me the Coltrane records and the Miles records, etc. Then it goes to And I'm talking about from the age of 6, 7. Okay. And then it goes to my mother playing all the soul music every weekend back then. Um, and me hearing consistently some of the greatest musicians and performers and artists of that time. Um, but I think the biggest, obviously, the biggest influence is my cousin Tony, who was Tony Humphreys, who was heavily into music since we were like 5, 6 years old. He's 4 years older than me, so he was my big brother, big cousin, big everything. Um, and he called me when I was 10, I think I was, or 9, and said, come downstairs, because we lived in the same place in Brooklyn. And he had the Jackson 5 new album. And when I saw that album and I saw those 5 young black kids on that album cover, it just, you know how you have the light bulb moments. I just said, I knew that music was for me. But I knew I didn't want to perform or produce necessarily or be a songwriter. I wanted to do something within the business, creatively and business wise. So from that moment, you know, I said, you know, Tony, we tried to form a band at that at that time because I was in school and I was playing the trumpet and he was playing the drums, and needless to say that didn't go too far, but yeah, that Jackson 5 album, seeing that wholly inspired me and inspired us both. And at that point, we started, you know, getting equipment together, and especially he did. You know, I said he was older, so he was getting turntables, and we were playing for our families, our aunts' parties. You know, your aunt and uncles would have those parties on Friday or Saturday night at the apartment or at the house or outside, and we play for those parties on the 45s, and um, you know, that's how the music found me, and
So
you know, I felt it was a sixth sense of mine that I just opened up.
wow. See now nobody. I don't think anybody would have known that Tony would have called you downstairs. Nobody unless that and crazy. Which Jackson 5 album was it?
The first one, the first one. I mean, I see it to this day. I mean, I literally looked at that thing for like hours. I couldn't believe what I saw. You know, because we were, you know, kids from Bed-Stuy and from East New York. You know, in a time where it was, you know, do or die Bed-Stuy. It's not
Right. Is that
Brooklyn Heights where it is
gentrified?
now.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
like gentrified. It's a gentrified Brooklynite. Right.
So, you know, it wasn't a lot that we had to inspire us where we grew up at all. And music, thank God we had music, because I don't even know if I'd be sitting here right now if we didn't have the music and we didn't find that sixth sense for it. Um, but yeah, that's how the music found me for sure.
Wow,
It was
that's
definitely
awesome.
that
So
album.
so from there, I guess we got a long way to get to where we know you become the master mixer, but take us on your steps in because it's important.
Well, from there, my mother was able to get us to the city. So she, at that time in New York, they had low income housing and new apartment buildings that were going up, and she was able to get us into a building on 26th Street because she worked at Bellevue, which wasn't too far from from the place where we lived, the apartment building we lived, Phipps, and so we moved, and Tony moved with us, and he lived with me and my mom, and my next door neighbor was Timmy Regisford. And Tim and I became really best friends. He's like a year or two younger than me, and we became best friends. And really, he was into music just like I was. You know, we were like 11, 12 years old. And we would, my bedroom was next to his living room where he had his music playing and mine was playing. So we were like back and forth. And then at this time, we were just putting records on a needle and playing records and looking for what we loved. And Tony said, listen, I'm going to teach you guys how to spin. So he taught Timmy and I how to DJ, how to mix. And at that point, it was like, okay, all we ever did was we were 13 or 14, got our first jobs, and every dollar we made, half would go to our mom, and the other half was buying records and equipment. And I had my setup in my bedroom, and Timmy had his setup. So me, Timmy, and Tony would just go back and forth as long as we would play as long and as loud as our mothers could deal with. And then we'd have to go to another apartment, my apartment, and go back to his, But yeah, that's how it started. And going forward, Timmy was actually working at the garage. He worked in the coat room at the garage. And he was meeting a lot of people there who were helping him, move forward and get gigs and start DJing around the city. And Tony told me, listen, we're going to go to New Jersey on Wednesday. And I was like, New Jersey? Jersey. He's like, a guy named Larry Patterson said I should come out because Larry Levan play there on Wednesday night. So we ventured out to New Jersey, and that's another thing that it definitely changed our lives. We were back. It was nonstop. And at that point, we started working there. I started working at Zanzibar at the door, and Tony started playing there.
So you were doing front door, Tony's doing the turntables, and I remember Tony telling me this years and years back that he played his first night on those Dorrance turntables, and it was horrific. He was not ready. He was like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
He said it was just horrible.
Yeah.
I remember telling me that horrible. Like
those were tough because we all played on 1100 A's or 1200s. If the 1200s were out there, I don't even remember. But those thorns were rough. They were not because the three of us, we were really into mixing, like riding and mixing, and like, our heroes, T. Scott and Larry Levan and David Mancuso and et cetera, Larry Patterson. They didn't hold, they mixed, but they didn't hold mixes. So our whole thing was to be different, was to actually ride mixes, because at that time there were more open tracks coming out that you could ride things under, etc. So we started, experimenting more with mixing, and those tables, those thorns they were not meant for that.
Yeah. And Larry Levan would just slip records in. You go, wow, how did he just do that? Because it's just like, you touch the platter and it just stopped.
Yeah, I know. The
1100 was a workhorse. You could stand on it 1100 and wouldn't break down. That thing you just go, it's like, ooh. So everybody always thought, see, now we never knew that it was like you guys were all, I mean, of course, you and Tony are cousins, family cousins, and Timmy as well. It's like one big family working around each other.
One other thing, do you know Ruben Toro, right?
Of course, Ruben lived in the building too, right?
Yeah, when we were going back and forth mixing, little Ruben was sitting in the room every time with us, like, because he lived 2 doors from us, me and Timmy, on the same floor, me, Timmy, and Tony. So when every time we were mixing, he was just sitting there listening and checking it out. So a lot of us came from that neighborhood, and across the street was Robert Chevelis,
right,
from CNC
Robert
Music
Chevelis.
Factory,
right. A plethora of great talent came just out of that one building. 4 DJs. Incredible. Did we lose Merlin Bobb? I hope we didn't lose him, because now this is when the story's getting really good. So those that are just joining us, Merlin Bobb is explaining how life begun in the lower part of Manhattan, okay? And Robert Cavillas lived across the street, Tony Humphries, Timmy Regisford, and himself all were amongst each other doing his thing. We hope he comes back. Welcome, everybody, to the show. It's the first of the season. And even Ruben Toro, the Latin Bull, and Merlin Bobb is back. The Latin Bull himself, Ruben Toro, was part of that whole gang. I was just explaining again to everybody. You back with us, Merlin? You good? Merlin? Hello? Merlin Bobb? You there? Can you hear me? Unless something, tell me a little technical issue.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just reminding everybody, just refreshing while we lost you for a moment, how 2 Puerto Ricans and 3 brothers come from one area. Cavillas, or well, is it Dominican, or I forget, Dominican or Puerto Rican? I forget with Robert. But anyway, crazy, bro. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Well, here we're thinking on the outside. Well, let me talk from the people who are watching. Like, the wars are beginning. Tony Humphries is Zanzibar, and he's on KISS, and then you guys are on BLS, and fighting for #1 station. You know what I mean? Like, we're thinking the war is happening because you're going back and forth on the radio. But we'll let you get to that too. So Ruben Toro is the little guy hanging out, watching you guys in total awe, doing your thing in the apartments.
Yes.
Did you guys do rotary mixes too? Did you have Bozaks and Uris, or you playing on?
Well, when we were on the radio, we did, yes. But
okay,
back then we had Radio Shack.
Oh, Radio Shack! Yes, yes. Major upgrade from Radio Shack. Yes.
Yeah, we had the first Radio Shack mixer, and we were trying to figure that shit out. Excuse me, trying to figure that out.
It's all right. It's all right. This is a good show.
Okay. We were trying to figure this shit out. We were like, took us forever, but we finally got it, and it worked.
But Merlin, let me ask you: was Tony at El Morocco at that time?
That's how, because when we moved to the city, he lived with us. So Tony and I would scour the city, go to every club, and my aunt helped him get a job at the Daily News. And the mail room at that time, he was like 17 or 18, right? And because he was working in the mail room, he befriended the music columnist who was a brother at the Daily News. And he was a much older gentleman, maybe in his 50s. And he was like, you know what? You're a good guy, man. You know your music. He said to Tony, he's like, here, take my passes. Remember back then, the Daily News was like the Times. You can go anywhere and get in anywhere. So Tony and I that's how we were teenagers going to Studio 54. We just show our Daily News badges. We go to any club in New York back then. So because Tony and I were scouring the cities, we went to El Morocco one night because it was right up the block it was off 2nd Avenue or 1st Avenue.
Right. On 54th.
And we were on 26th and 2nd, so we would go up. And he went in and he had an audition and he got the job. And it was like, we thought we had discovered oil or something. It was like the greatest thing ever. He got his first gig in a real club. And, that was the El Morocco. That's how it happened.
Yo, were you at the audition too when he auditioned?
No, I was too young to go in. I was
going to say, whoa, what was that like? I was like 14
or something. Yeah.
You didn't lie like we all did. Yo, man, I'm 18. It looked
Yeah.
at you like
Well,
you're like 13.
we didn't want to do anything to mess up his possibilities of getting it. So I was like, I waited outside for him, actually.
Like a good cousin would, like a good family member, just waiting, hoping to God he got this job, right? Like he needs this job. Was Tony at that time playing the way that we all got to know him later with the long overlaying and all that? Or was he still getting his feels? If you remember at that time. Uh-oh. Please, the internet hold us. Hello, Jeff. Hello, everyone. Merlin, you with us? I think Merlin's having a bit of a moment. The computer is whacking out. Here it comes. Maybe come back. And just as the story is getting in depth and strong, we get a Wi-Fi, I think a Wi-Fi issue on Mr. Merlin Bobb. Let me take him down. Wait, let's add him to this thing. Nope. Is he back? Is he back yet? Sorry, everybody, for this. Let's see if he comes back. Anyway, those are joining us to recap. We go to El Morocco for Tony Humphries and his audition, and Merlin's standing outside waiting, hoping that Tony gets this job. Let's see if Merlin's back. Mr. Merlin Bobb. Merlin, you there with us? I don't know if something's going on. I'm sorry everyone for the technical difficulty. It's like crazy. This is like our first day back and we're having, oh God. All right. Let's see if we can get Mr. Merlin Bobb back. Let me remove him for a second. Put your questions up, everybody who's watching the show, because I know I have tons of questions. I have tons of questions that are going through my mind as Merlin's unfolding each piece of this story. And I'm telling you, this is real historical. This is pre master mixes. This is pre Tony getting his Kiss 98.7 when Shep brings him in and all that. We're gonna find out how Merlin gets the job at WLS, and hopefully we can get Mr. Merlin Bobb back. And is Mr. Merlin back? I don't know. Merlin Bobb, you with us?
Yep. I'm not sure what's happening, but
everybody's going like this. No, don't leave. Especially now we're in El Morocco. We're all going. Okay, so you're being a good cousin, waiting to hear Tony tell you something. This is like you're waiting out there, right? So what happens?
He comes out and he says, "You won't believe this, bro. They're gonna let me play." We went running down the block, excited, crazy, and that was the first. He was the first of us three to actually have a gig in a real club in New York.
A real gig.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Damn, Merlin. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall with all that. I would have been dying to see this. Go ahead. So now Tony starts playing El Morocco. This has got to be around 79 or earlier.
He's 77, 79, somewhere
around there, right?
between there. I can remember it, but I don't remember the years.
All right, it's around that time, Devil's Gun era, around all those big, right? CJ and companies like the big record, high on Mad Mountain. Because if you guys are running around studio, that's 77, 78, around that time.
Right. And this is one where Tony and he took me to the Loft when I was 14, and that was in 76 or 77. And so that's where we were. That's where I got my education on music and sound and the culture and everything else. It was just, I used to sit in the bass bottoms in the Loft and just like listen to Trans Europe Express, and I swear the train went right through the club, man, because it was just the most amazing sound you'd ever want to hear. But yeah, at that time, Tony And I and Timmy were influenced by David Mancuso, because this is all pre garage. Garage opened in '77, but we didn't really get into the garage until like '79.
Okay. So you get the
So,
Mancuso School. We know you got the Mancuso School. One record gets played.
and once we started going to the garage, well, I'll backtrack a little. When I was 16, because we were like 17 when we started going to the garage. When I was 16, Tony, since he was playing El Morocco, now he was getting more music. He can go to the record pools and say, and to the labels and the independents and say, listen, I'm at this club, and it was legit. And he'd get all this music. So he didn't have to buy it anymore, because, we were out buying imports and everything every weekend, and now we didn't have to buy them anymore. So when I was 16, he took me to Prelude Records to see Larry Patterson. And this is the first time I met him. And when we left, I asked Tony what he did. He said, well, he does the A&R for Prelude. And I was like, A&R, what is that?
Right.
And he explained it to me. And I was like, I had another light bulb moment. It was like, that's what I want to do. That's
you
it.
Knew right there. You knew right there. That's
right then and there. When he explained it to me, because like I said, when I saw that Jackson 5, I knew I wanted to be in the business, but I didn't want to perform like they were. I wanted to be creative and do business. And I mean, I didn't say business back when I was 12 years old, 10 years old, but I just knew I wanted to do something else. And when I was 16 and he explained that to me after we left Larry Patterson and explained what he does for Prelude, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And so it was a subconscious thing in my head going forward. And I knew my best way to catapult that, or to get a stepping stone going to accomplish that, was through DJing and building my brand as a DJ. So that was very important to me.
Did you really know that at that moment, or that just happens in time? Because there was nothing to look at back then, like that kind of. Now you have YouTube and all that stuff to give you some pointers.
Well, I knew I had to do two things to be because I wanted to be in that seat that Larry Patterson was in. Like that, it just amazed me when I went into this record label, and like all the artists that we loved, and this guy was the person who was responsible for them. Like, I just knew at that age of 16, that's what I want to do. I want to, create music that millions of people are affected with in a positive way. It's so corny as it sounds, but it does affect people for a lifetime. All the music we know and hear, and to be the one person responsible for that, for millions and millions of people, both here in the States and all over the world, was something that I aspired to do.
But I'm going to tell you something. You got your mama saying you better get your ass in school and you better do so. What she's expecting you to bring home? What did they have for you? What was in their mind? You going to be a lawyer? You going to be a doctor? Was that part of it, or you just knew music was the end game for you always? Oh no! Great.
Can you repeat that?
Oh, okay, good. Because you did the Mitch McConnell. You went. I was saying is, with your mom you living in her house.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. You living on the mom's roof. What was her thinking for you as far as what she was dreaming your profession to be? Was she hearing this idea as well, you being in the music industry, or she had you out to be a lawyer or something like that, like a doctor? Oh, let's see if we get him back. Yes, everyone. This is historical. This can't be any more historical then this man. I was just saying, if Merlin's back here, are you back, Merlin? Are you there? The Wi-Fi's kicking out. Merlin Bob, hello, hello. Anyway, we'll wait for Merlin to come back. As we were saying, I can speak from myself. My mom and dad had no idea that there would be ever a chance to make it in music at that time. They all had this theory that you go into music, you're not gonna make it, you're gonna be broke, you're gonna never make it, and it's something that it's it's not like now. This is so street level what he's talking. Like, you're running around. Here we go. You're running around town, and Merlin's at Prelude with Marvin Schlachter's record label at the time. He's with Larry Patterson, probably met Michael Gomes, all those people. Francois there.
Yep.
Francois editing. This is all groundbreaking stuff, and he knows right at this moment that you want to be now the A&R. But the question I had was, with your mom, did your mother have plans for you to become like a doctor or a lawyer? Or because this music thing is like, what? A&R? What are you talking about, A&R? They don't, because you didn't even know what A&R meant, right? So what was mom thinking? Mom's was like,
Yeah, she was. Fortunately, myself, my mother, and Timmy's mother, they were very, very, very supportive. And they just liked that we weren't out in the streets, okay, doing other crazy stuff at that time, during that time in New York. Even Manhattan was crazy back then. I mean, and there was plenty of gangs going around back then and plenty of recruitment going on. And they were just happy that we were in the house playing music loud every day and not running around doing other crazy shit. So
they knew where you were. They
yeah,
heard the music. They said,
yep,
he's safe. Okay, we'll deal with the noise.
exactly.
Deal with the noise. We know.
But what I did was I had a second love, which was art and architecture. So I went to high school for architecture and I went to college for architecture and I have a degree in architecture. So music, I knew I couldn't back then. You couldn't go to school to be in the music business. It's like, come on, are you kidding me? It's
Right,
about
and I tell people that. Thank you, Merlin. Explain that there was no, I'll go spend $600 or $1,000 and become. There was no, right? Tell them.
It's all about who you knew. To get into the business is about how you built your brand. The business had to want you. You didn't want to be in the business, and then you just stepped in. No, you had to. They had to come for you. So, like I said before, that's what I figured I needed to do, was build my brand as a DJ and anything and everything else I can do. I went from DJing to going in the studio, learning how to engineer, to learning how to edit, to learn anything and everything I could learn how to do. I would go to the studio and be a runner. I didn't care as long as I was in there learning. It didn't matter. And we never slept. Fortunately, I'm a nocturnal by nature, so we never slept because it was around the clock, learning and getting experience and building your brand.
And as of course in New York City, the biggest building block of the brand was Larry Levan, the Paradise Garage. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than that. So you're looking at the queen, or should I say the king or queen of everything, with the greatest sound system to benchmark. It's like, where do you start from there? Because you want to do your thing and you want to make a difference, right?
Well, what it is that I could say this now. And when I say build my brand, I mean, I was from the age of 16 going forward. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but I'm saying it now in a sense. That's what I was doing without understanding the importance of brand building. I just wanted to continue to do what I love. And from that came brand building. And then I understood how to be in the business, that the business had to want you. So I continued that. But I could also say I went to school for architecture and have a degree in architecture, but my degree in music comes from the Paradise Garage.
Right. PG University. Right.
Yeah.
PG High
Without a
School.
doubt. Like Larry taught me so much, and I don't mean about necessarily DJing. I'm talking about music and the crowd and
Control.
um, how to select the right music. Are you there?
Yeah, we're
I think
here.
we get lost again.
No, it's all right. You good. I don't know if it's the Wi-Fi on your end.
Let me see. Hold on one second,
You're all
everybody.
right.
Let me try this.
Merlin's getting into Paradise Garage High School. I've talked about this, everybody. I've talked about this myself over interviews, and he's telling exactly how it happened. Pre me. Go ahead, Merlin. Take it back. Paradise Garage University.
You there, Lenny? Okay.
I'm here. Paradise Garage University. Okay. Tell us. Go ahead.
Yeah, Larry. I can give you one incident when I was working at the radio station. You know, when I started doing the mix shows, then I got a job there as in programming. And then a year later, I became an assistant program director. So all the record labels had to come to me and the program director and play their music for us to decide what was going to go in the air and get programmed. So there was a record brought to me by the rep at Warner Brothers, the promotional rep. And I was like, no, that's some West Coast stuff. We're not playing that. I'm not feeling it. But the song was blowing up everywhere else outside of the East Coast. And actually, that night, because it was a Friday, that night, I said, I'm going to go over to the garage. I walk in, and what do I hear? Larry playing that song and everybody going crazy. And I went back to the station and put it into programming. So what I learned was, you know, it's really about the music. It's not about a location. You know, people love great music. They want to hear something different sometimes. And if it's a hit, it's a hit. And that song was Rumors. Do you remember the song? These are all these rumors.
It's happening every day.
Yeah.
And you're right. It had that West Coast groove to it. It definitely was not like a typical New York record, but it just took New York by storm.
But that's just one of the many ways that Larry taught me so much. And his remixes taught me so much. His selection of what he remixed taught me so much. The way he was able to have one foot on the dance floor and one foot in the DJ booth when he played taught me so much. Him and David Mancuso. So that between the loft and the garage, that was my university. That's where I learned the business.
So, and with WBLS to become a PD, an associate program director, under who were you under at that time? Who was the actual PD at the station?
BK Kirkland.
BK Kirkland, right?
May Attaway was the actual music director, and she said, "Listen, Merlin, you know you're out there. You can do this. You know, you can be my assistant program director. You meet with all these." And that's what really opened up my doors to the record labels, is that all the record labels had to come to me to play me their music.
Please.
And that opened up a whole nother world, because the record business in itself is a whole nother world.
But before I get to that, Merlin, how did you get the job at BLS? What was the door opener for you to get in there? How did it begin? Merlin?
I didn't hear that. Yeah.
Okay. What was the door opening moment for you to get the job in BLS? WBLS?
Oh, I was at Zanzibar. First, I started working in the coat room. Then I started working the stage, setting up the stage for Shaka, which was my greatest thing I ever did in the world, because she was my heiress. And then I became the doorman, because I knew if I was the doorman, back then, doormen were everything, you know, like besides getting, you know, treats, as they would call them, but I would meet everybody coming in from the business, and Zanzibar was known for having all the top artists and performers at that time. So I wanted to be the doorman. And so I was a doorman then at the time, but I was going home every morning from Zanzibar as a doorman, practicing and DJing and practicing until like the next day, till that night. I'd never slept. So one night, this is when Timmy first got on BLS, and Tony was on Kiss for like maybe a few months with Shep Pettibone.
That's right. Right.
And Timmy said, "Yo, bro, I got to go to London for the first time. I want you to stand in for me, He's like, "You can do it, bro. I know. Come on, man." And I was like, 100%, I got it. And from that moment on, I started working at BLS doing the mix show. I was doing Friday nights and Timmy was doing Saturday nights for the longest. And then Timmy got really busy because he started working at Motown.
That's right.
And then I started doing both Friday and Saturday nights along with Tony doing Friday and Saturday nights. So it was like, our dream came true. Like you talk about three blessed brothers, like we went from not knowing what our future was in Bed-Stuy to listening to Larry and T. Scott and David Todd and all these guys on the radio and dreaming about it when we were like 12, 13, 14 years old.
That's what we were doing. That's what we were all doing. The same thing when you were playing, dreaming about being on BLS.
It's truly a blessing. We would have never imagined the three of us would be doing it.
To get that door job, did you work for Shelton Hayes at the time?
Of course. Shelton was the doorman.
They were asking me, you doing doors. So how did you get the job at Zanz? Was it Shelton or Tony brought you in?
No, Tony, when Tony and I first went to Zanzibar, when Larry asked us to come out, we were back there every Wednesday, okay? And Tony was trying to get a gig DJing. So I didn't want to, obviously I'm not going to step on my cousin's toes. So I said, I'm going to work here some way or another too. I don't care if I have to work in the code room. And I started working in the code room and he started DJing alongside Larry. And then eventually Shelton said he was going to stop working on Wednesday. So I was like, told the manager, please give me a chance. You had to be 21 supposedly to get into Zanzibar, but I was 18 at the time. And they took a chance, I have to give it to Al Murphy, Shelton Hayes, Larry Patterson.
Let me show. Hey, wait, look at everybody. Look at him. Look how handsome Bob was. Look at him. Look at that boy. Look at that man with his tux pants on and his tie. That's class right there, everybody. Class.
That had to be our anniversary party. That's the only time.
I'm just saying. I'm just showing that was the Zanzibar. That's the only picture we have, but there he is.
Wow.
Thank you for getting that picture to us because that actually makes sense.
Yeah, that was. I figured I'd be at the door. I'm going to meet everybody, all the people in the business that come through. So it was.
At that time, so I get the timing right. Shep is hot now too. Shep Pettibone's mixing and doing crazy amounts of mixes.
Incredible.
Hot. The clap, the you remember all that? Okay. Tony Humphries is not yet on Kiss, or was he on Kiss when he got the job at Zanzibar and you were all working together?
No, he was on Kiss, but he was doing like special mixes. He wasn't on the weekends like Shep was still doing the weekends. Tony was doing like special like mixes. He would take like the best of Philly International and put all those together in a mix. And they would play at certain times of the evening or day or whatever. So he was doing like special mixes. So Shep had him in like a prerequisite kind of position, doing things to see how he really was coming through. So yeah, during that time, he hadn't started yet, the weekend parties.
Right. So that was just like he would do the medley mix for this. Right. Because I remember Tony wasn't on weekends at that time. He was He was just doing special like 3-day weekend. They put him on the Sunday or whatever it was. And then he'd do a 30-minute superset. He used to call them the supersets back then or whatever it was back then. So, okay. People realize this, how incredible this is. 2 family members, 3 family members, because Timmy's family too in the whole game.
My brother.
Yeah. Controlling New York radio, black radio. Controlling it, completely controlling it at
and
night.
They were the #1 and #2 stations in the country.
How's that craziness? That's nuts.
I know. It's hard to believe now, but we didn't think about it much then.
Flowers. I'm resting flowers on that part because these were the hottest jobs to have. The exposure to the amount of millions of people at night listening to these shows and recording these shows. And because you go on YouTube, they have your old shows up. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, Merlin. Wow. So you got to work, you got to set up Shaka Khan's stage. That's a changing moment.
Yes.
And you even get to become assistant PD and
assistant music director.
Excuse me, assistant music. And how long did you stay as that in that particular job, in that job title?
I'd say for like 3 years. And that's when Atlantic and Columbia and I think Arista called me to interview for A&R jobs.
Oh, so the dream that you projected now is now thrown in front of you.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Because, I was on the radio back then. I was beating everybody at every label. They had to come to me to the #1 station in the country to get their records played. It's crazy when I talk about it now, but back then we were just young and like grateful, which I still am, but we were just grateful to be doing what we loved. We didn't understand the true importance of those positions that we had and the position we had to be on the radio to play the music that started a whole genre,
Yeah, damn right it did. And to control the records that you thought were appropriate for your set became many others in their set, not just you anymore. You're exposing all of us to this new track. And now, what's that record? I don't know what this record is. It's like Virgo mechanically replayed. How much did you play that record? Replay. I used to hear that on your show all the time. I mean, you played so many records that were so underground and became massive club hits. Some went on to become commercial hits. And of course, we're taking a commercial break, everybody. Let me see the kind of questions while my man Merlin Bobb gets back to us. Let's see if he's back yet. Merlin, you back?
Yes.
Did you hear what I said about how, for example, you played Virgo mechanically replayed the death out of that record, man? It had everybody looking for that bootleg. Everybody looking for that bootleg. You know what I'm saying? Like records like that. I can remember like yesterday. It was like the ultimate DJ. You're just doing what you loved. And again, teaching a whole new generation that was a little younger than you what you experienced and brought to now the radio. And of course, here comes the major companies now wanting to grab you because they respect what you're doing and almost like you're a superhero in a sense.
Well, they felt in a sense, if I can choose and pick or be part of the radio station that breaks some of the biggest songs in the country, then I should be able to have the ability to pick and choose artists that can break worldwide. So it was that kind of, possession, I should say, that went into the mindset of the industry. Like I said before, the industry has to want you, no matter how much you want to be in the industry, if the industry doesn't want you, then it's not happening. So you obviously have to build your brand and build your knowledge and get your resume, up and strong.
Well,
and
You got brother Timmy at Motown already.
Right.
You got Tony on Kiss. You're doing BLS. You understand the mechanics now, what's going on.
Exactly.
And they come in, three major companies come for you now, right? At the
Mhm.
door, banging the door. What happened, Merlin? Who'd you go with? I know who you went, but who was the door
Um,
opener?
well, it wasn't. I met with all three, but Atlantic was, Donny Hathaway. You know what I mean? Like that was that was it for me. Atlantic had so many, especially at that time. This is really moving forward. We're in '85 now. You know, and this is after like 6 years, 5 or 6 years at the radio station. Um, so I went with Atlantic. It was very important, and my mother had a lot to do with that choice too, because she always loved everyone on Atlantic, Aretha Franklin, and et cetera, et cetera. Um, so yeah, I went with Atlantic, and even though at that time Atlantic was like the number 11th or 12th um, as far as urban music was concerned. Um, and the other labels were much stronger back then,
Right.
black music and urban music. Um, but for me, I wanted the challenge. I figured it's easy to go somewhere that's happening, you know, and but I want to go somewhere and build it up, especially a label and a division that has always been my favorite as far as their artists and repertoire in the past that I grew up with. So um, yeah, I went to Atlantic, and within 2 years, we were number one label. Fortunately, I have a not only with dance music and house music and DJing, but I grew up with hip hop. I grew up in the late '70s when hip hop was emerging. So, and me and Tony, we were all into hip hop. We were into punk music. We were into salsa. We were into everything because New York was a melting pot at that time, and we were all into every genre that was happening at that time, and every club that had this. We were in, um, you know, the what's the name again? CBGBs.
Unplugged.
we were everywhere. So that was important for me
So what?
to actually not just sign, because initially, when I first went in, major labels didn't want to have anything to do with house music because they thought it was a fad. Like, they thought hip hop was a fad. And of course, as we know, hip hop kind of dominated house music, and house music went to Europe in the '80s, and hip hop became more prevalent and became the genre of the decades to come. And now it's come full circle, pretty much. Hip hop is starting to, any genre that's around for over 50 years eventually starts to get watered down, and it's just not the same. And eventually it's on its way out, unfortunately. Um, so I'm glad to see at this point how dance and house music has done a full circle and come back. Yes, is
But Merlin, wait a second. You get the job at Atlantic.
mm-hmm.
What's your responsibility when you first start?
I was a director of A&R.
And what does that exactly mean when you
It
say
means
that?
it means I was responsible for finding talent to fuel the artist roster. You don't have a record company without an artist roster. You don't have a record company without an A&R staff to fuel the music and the artists that make the company, and that sell the records that financially support the company. So A&R is probably the most important position and department there is in any music or entertainment business.
So
And
when you're in an A&R position, artist and repertoire, your job is to find raw talent basically and hone it, right? Like a diamond, work it.
Well, it's two things. There's already an existing roster, so you have to look at that roster and see what you work with. Some artists may get dropped, some artists may get put up front because you have to continue to develop them. And then you're also responsible for continuing to build a roster and sign new artists. Some artists can be self-contained that are write and produce themselves. Um, that's few and far in between sometimes, that you find a real true talent that has the ability, like a Prince or something, that does it all themselves. And then but majority of artists you work with, you'll find a great singer, or you'll find a great producer, or you'll find a great songwriter. And you have to mold that, you have to develop that. And like we say in the business, it takes an overnight sensation is 10 years in the making in the music business.
Right.
And
1 minute
all
later.
those artists have developed.
Right. 10 years for the 1 minute to go snap, to turn,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So
So that was my responsibility when I first got there as director. And fortunately, I made some signings on the hip hop and R&B side that got us to a #1 position a year and a half later, from 11 to 1. And we stayed there for years, consistently, through the artists. But when I got there, one thing I always in the back of my head was I gotta sign some underground dance / house artists, because that genre was just too important to me. The culture was too important to me. And so, we started to, and, Atlantic, we were one of the first major labels to really start signing a lot of dance music and house music.
damn right you were, because I say it all the time. Marshall Jefferson, Byron Stingley. I mean, the list goes on and on. The people you brought in, Roger Sanchez. I mean, it's all through your tenure there.
Kerry Chandler,
Roland Clark, keep
and
going.
the Burrell brothers,
Reggie Burrell and Ronald.
and I used to get Louis and David. These are all guys I grew up with. We were all teenagers coming up together, so I would get them to do as many remixes as possible. Anything that needed to be remixed, and the labels would give me a hard time back there. The label.
That's important. People don't understand that. They think it was super easy, your job, right?
No.
You got to get everything okayed, right? All budgets got to be okayed. You got to go through all kinds of loopholes. It's not that easy.
And like, for instance, with 10 City, most artists that I would sign back then, hip hop and R&B, well, mainly the R&B artists and the pop artists would be signing to a actual album deal. Whereas with, 10 City and the house artists, everything was singles until they proved themselves, and then it went into an album.
Let me show Byron. Look at Byron Stingley. There's Byron Stingley from 10 City, and still going strong today with Merlin. Still going strong.
Like Byron we did 2 singles with him before we did the album, and it was one of the first gold house music albums, period. And CeCe Rogers, we did 2 singles with him before we did an album, and so on. But this is something I wanted to bring up too, that because I know that people go back and forth with where did house music come? Was it New York or was it Chicago? And I only have my interpretation because I was there. Okay. But there's room for discussion, of course. But we started creating underground dance music in New York because of the Garage and the Loft and Mellon's and Bond Street and all these places that played underground dance music is what we were influenced by. The disco, the R&B, the jazz, the this, the that. And all of us that were young then, that were in those clubs, when we went home to create, we created our own music, which was underground dance music or house music. That's what influenced us to start this genre. And it was happening in Chicago with the the Warehouse and Powerhouse, I believe, and the clubs there. And the first, oh, you there, Lenny?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
I think I lost you again.
No, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
You there? You can hear me?
Hear you loud and clear. We were just hearing about Powerhouse
Okay.
and
Um,
Chicago. Go ahead.
so anyway, that's what I wanted to make a point of. I
Wait
wanted
a
to make the
second.
point that, you know, that's
Wait,
where house
wait,
music comes from.
wait, wait, wait.
Whether you're in New York or Chicago.
Hang on. Let's bring Merlin Bobb back. Got to ask him the question. It's in my mind. Because Timmy Regisford's involved in this as well, and so is his cousin Tony Humphries. May we bring him back to the stage again. Okay, Merlin Bobb. Timmy Regisford's got this young man named Boyd Jarvis playing keyboards all over those records. Okay. People always sweat about this, and this is my perspective. I've said this many times. Maybe they may get their shotgun and want to shoot me. But I always did say on Prelude Records, the visual record, the music got me with your cousin, Timmy, and Boyd, and Jason singing with Anthony Malloy in the background has to be one of the first of house music, if not the first. I didn't want to say, get your shotguns out. I'm going to let Merlin say it because he was around them. He was right there. He has to know this. Merlin, give us a perspective. Come on.
Listen, you said it for me. You couldn't have said it any better. I'll be honest with you.
I've said it many times. I've given Timmy credit on this. I've given Tony Humphries credit on it. I've given my closest friends, Anthony Malloy, singing backgrounds.
And we listen, this, and that was the first release. We were doing that prior for back in Timmy's bedroom, me, him, Boyd, Tony, we were in there. And for years prior to that, it wasn't until we got the deal that it came out in '83. And I know the first Chicago house record release was On and On by Jesse Sanders, which was '84.
Right.
So I'm not going to. So, you know, I'm sure Terry is going to give me a call like, Larry, what's going on here? What are y'all saying? But
and Hosh Gorelli just said it correctly. He said the only thing was it wasn't called house music. And he's just.
And that I give Chicago 200%. They branded it. We were all listening to and influenced by the same underground clubs. And we all went and created similar sounding music, which was underground dance music is what we called it. They called it house music, but they branded it really well. And we went with it. We were like, okay, fine. We'll call it all house music. It's fine. We're all doing the same thing here.
So Merlin, give us the bird's eye view of that bedroom making that record. Like, I know you were around seeing Boyd and them all doing their thing. What was that like? Was it like what we dreamed it would be, like these keyboards and all that stuff, or was it just?
Yeah, there was. First of all, Timmy had his setup, tables, everything, 2 reel-to-reels, just like I had. We both had 2 reel-to-reels. Our equipment set up, our speakers hanging. We had drilled up in the ceiling, which we weren't supposed to do. And then Boyd had 2 keyboards. We were in there with Smokey in there because Boyd smoked like crazy.
Yep.
And you know, he was, as soon as he hit a bass line or something, we both go, oh shit, what was that? Yo, bro, keep it going. But, you know, it was really ingenious of Tim to bring him on the station when he played with him. That was really a first that had ever happened live like that, where he was playing on top of his mixes. And that was the key for each one of us, me, for Tony, Tim, and I, self. We all said we have to have our own identities. You know, none of us wanted to. Tony taught us how to play, but then he was like, okay, go off and do your thing. We can't all sound the same, okay? So Timmy, that was his thing with Boyd, and that was the first ever done. The first time it was ever done that way. And for me, I was always into production and producers and remixes. So I always wanted my mixes to sound like a remix. So when people heard me on the radio and they heard their favorite song with another song on top of it or under it or another song behind it, when they go to a club and hear it, they're gonna think about, oh shit, I want to hear it like I heard it before. I never heard it like this before. So for me, it was always, finding those melodies that match, finding the chords that work together that you wouldn't expect. It was always about telling a story when I played.
So you're actually really more like even more than just DJing. You're actually like producing even further in the sense of mixing those records.
Well, that's the way I looked at it because I was
As a
always a
producer, more than
producer.
just a DJ.
I mean, even when I started at Atlantic, one reasons that we did so well is because I started doing these production deals and giving production deals to the creative side who would bring me artists also. When I signed in Vogue back then because I went to McElroy and McForster I signed MC Light too. So I went to them to produce her album, and they said to me, listen, we have this girls group. I was like, oh, really? So let me hear it. And you know what I mean? So to me, it was always about producers because I love the producers like Philly International, the Motown, so that's why when I played, I kind of heard that too. I heard taking songs and making them different than what you would normally hear them as, like almost like a remix or reproduction of them, but from mixing, from DJing.
Right. Wow. Because I'm trying to get into the masterminding of all this because I know there's formulas that went into your decisions, with your signings, because the way you played music was like a kaleidoscope of how you, like you said, I would have an underlaying bed and two or three things running on top. It's like making a whole new record, before it was even that, in a sense. So it's crazy. It's amazing to hear you break it down. And then, I remember every week with Timmy's show, for example, Boy would be playing these new parts and everybody be sweating looking for the new mix. And it was no new mix. That was just guys doing it live. People be like, yo, I want this version of Speculation or Release the Tension. You remember?
Yeah, of course.
Every week you guys were playing new versions. It's like, what version is this? What version? These versions don't exist. Manny Lehman would be like having a headache going, I don't know what version this is. This doesn't exist,
Yeah.
From Vinyl Mania. I would be the first to ask him, you ever heard, this version that Merlin played? It must be something Timmy gave him. That's exactly what it was, because it was like you never heard those versions come out of those records.
Yeah, I used to I had so many tracks that I would play things under and over, and every week people were like, what the hell, where can I get that version? But that's what you want exclusivity back then, when it's not like now anybody can pop and get what they want most of the time, but back then it was just very difficult. And it also gave us our own brand. It gave us something that, set us apart from everyone else. And, I know the guys in Chicago were on the radio too. It's starting to do more and more. Steve Silk Hurley was really cool back then. He used to send me things all the time. And I think he even had me on his show there once in GCI. But of course, Marshall would send me things, and it was I got so much from Chicago when they first started really producing a lot of music, and I would play what I like, because I don't play anything that I don't like and that I don't think my audience is gonna like. I don't play stuff just because it's new or because it's exclusive or whatever. It had to be hot, okay? Or it had to have a funky, I don't care if it was a 4-track or 24-track, I would play it if it was hot. And those guys would send me cassettes. They'd send me reel-to-reels of things that were muddy and like 4-track or 8-track. And some of that shit was just so hot, I would have to play it.
And work it.
And I would love it. And they loved it, and they would send me more and more for three reasons. They wanted to get it signed by me, maybe, or played on the radio, or played in our clubs, or in Shelter at the
Well,
time.
that's the next step. That's the next step. As Atlantic is, you're doing R&B and house, and you're signing all these acts. There's a big void that happened in New York. 87, as we all remember, September 87, Garage closes. So for a few years, up until the time Shelter comes into play, there's baseline, there's some clubs, juniors playing downtown, Palladium, Underground. Let's put it like this: everyone's looking for a place.
Right.
And now we hear about the talk on the street is Timmy Regisford's going to open a club. That's all I heard. I remember hearing that. Timmy Regisford's looking and he found a space. They didn't say where it was. They didn't say who was involved, what was involved. All we know is just wait. That's all we kept hearing. Just wait. How did that all come about? What was the story behind the Shelter, New York City?
Well, we've actually wanted a club since we were teens, since we were like running in and out of clubs, we always dreamed about it. But we were so busy, doing obviously other things, that it wasn't until Timmy was solidly an executive. By this time, he was vice president at Motown. I got promoted. I was a vice president at Atlantic. We were both doing really well at the time, at the labels, at the companies, and we were still doing the radio, a little bit here and there, not as much, but we were traveling, DJing, etc. So we had the ammunition meaning the finances finally, to look for a space and open a space. But yeah, it took the garage closing for us to really say, okay, we got to do this, and it never was for our own. It was really because we knew the family out there in the community wanted a place that reminded them of, or that was similar to what we all came up with. So in 1990, myself, Timmy, and Freddie Sannon sat down in his living room, and we said, we're going to do this, and we'll pool ourselves and we'll get it together. And Charles Benanti from Sound, what was the name of the studio again?
Soundworks.
Soundworks, right. Soundworks.
I remember him, Charlie. I was like, that's it. Go ahead. Sorry.
And he partnered with us also, and he got Madonna to give her stamp on it. And we knew that area was closing, or that it was available, the club area, which was a famous landmark club in New York, in Tribeca. And, we put it together. And that was the beginning of Shelter. I mean, obviously, what we wanted more than anything was a great space, and to be able to open up at the hours that we knew that our clientele wanted and our family wanted. And, it was me on Fridays and Tim on Saturdays. And then we felt it was important for the culture and the community that we have all the DJs we know that we came up with, because none of us were able to play at these, because we love the garage, we love the loft, we love all these clubs, but we were never able to play there or have the ability to play there. Fortunately, Larry played and supported our records that we were putting out right before it closed. But yeah, we wanted to have a place for all our peers to come and play too. And I think that sense of community, not only with our audience or our family, I don't like to call them audience, but our family,
Yeah.
And the community of DJs and people in the business and producers, etc., was very important to us, because we didn't do it to make money. We were doing fine. We were executives at companies. We did it for the sake of the community.
We need a place to do what we do.
Yeah, that's all.
Great. Look,
and
everybody.
happen to enjoy.
Merlin starting the first night on a Friday night.
Yeah, that was the first Friday night at Shelter, and
In the old
man, we had the sound system there. Was like, it was the best. It was great. It was great.
David Soto. I remember he put that system in. David Soto.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
We never imagined it would be 31 years now. That the brand is still
and
relevant,
adored.
still
And
going.
adored. And adored. And
Yeah,
loved.
we really didn't think so. We figured the garage lasted for 10 years. So if we lasted for 5 years, it was an accomplishment.
Right? You're thinking we'd be lucky we do 5 years, right? You said if we do
Yeah.
5 years. It's crazy. Merlin, how does that feel now? Now you got the hottest club in New York in the underground scene. Well, you were competing with Sound Factory too at that time because it was open. Because that was that space. Garage had closed, Sound Factory opens, and then right after, I was gonna say Shelter opens, 91. So now you're the next guys on the block, taking back the crowd.
If I remember, Sound Factory our crowds were slightly different though. The Sound Factory was definitely a little like 60-40 commercial, where we were 70%, garage, and we were a gay club at the end of the day. It was mimicking what we grew up in. Like all the dance clubs we went to were gay clubs. And even though we weren't gay, we were accepted. And so we were 100% supporting that and that clientele or that family that, nurtured us and brought us up. So, Shelter was an underground, like a true underground dance club. We didn't want to have anything commercial about us, But Sound Factory did really well too, and built a really great brand for themselves, but they were never considered an underground club.
No, but after Garage closed, Junior did have a core of that crowd until you guys opened up. As I recall,
we opened up, right?
Yeah,
right.
even Joey Llanos was working at Sound Factory, and he's,
right.
Let's be real, head of security at Garage. So if you talk about family, you're going to see Noel and Joey Llanos at Sound Factory. It's kind of like inviting. It's like we know you. Yo, you in Zanzibar. Or Tony Humphries, like it's family. It's just a different place. All right, it's familiar until you guys opened up, and then you extracted that core crowd.
Yeah,
because I remember
we even had Noel work at the door for us.
Yeah, I remember that too when you brought Noel over, and then Ricky Willock later, of course. But in the early part of the Shelter, it felt very garage-esque, in the sense of not garage, but it had pieces of core people that were part of the garage at Shelter.
I mean, you asked how did it feel back then. I honestly, I don't realize what effect it had on so many people until now. I told you I just started back DJing, playing again, like put myself fully back in the genre and the community and the culture.
Merlin, let me say this. Let me just say this then. From me as a train spotter, DJ producer myself, okay? When I heard Timmy play my records on that sound system, it felt like I was hanging out with Larry LeBand. That's how it felt for us. You know what I'm saying? Like it was that feeling again. It was like, wow. See that crowd accept what you're doing with the hopes that this record's going to go now. There it is.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Like I said, until now, I didn't realize how much it affected so many people. Back then when we were doing it, I mean, we were like 26, 27, 25, 26 years old. And we had so many different things going on that we were just grateful that we even had a crowd there. We were grateful that people even came, to be honest with you, and that they enjoyed themselves. So, we always kept our ego intact. Timmy and I always fought with our egos and keeping them intact because as we did all this stuff at a young age, our egos could have went like crazy. So we always kept each other in line. With
It's
that.
very true because Timmy is very quiet unless you know him. He
Yeah.
won't talk. He don't talk. It's crazy. He don't talk.
But that's just the person. People think it's him brushing people. No, that's
Right,
just
he's
who
going
he
like this
is.
to you. He just
You know?
don't talk. He's not a big socializer with others we know will happy to talk. He's rather be playing music and doing his thing. No, I get it. But nobody understands.
Yes,
Merlin,
exactly.
nobody understands what that's like for you when you say that. Oh, we're just humble that we had a crowd. You had 800 revelers in that room screaming on a Friday and Saturday night. You know what I'm saying? It's a great feeling that you're actually signing a record and you're testing it that night on an acetate or a tape or reel to reel as an A&R man, executive A&R man, still playing on WBLS in New York. And you also have a club night now. And we lost Merlin Bobb again. Is this not what I call legendary? To have the man himself explain it step by step to all of you what this was like to be involved in a nightclub at the same time on WBLS and then running an executive position during the daytime because he's doing corporate hours, he's doing nighttime hours, he's going to the studio to hear new productions and work with production companies. Because that's nothing an A&R person does. You go and sit down and listen to music as the guys are making it. So
Yeah.
you're doing all that, flip-flopping, DJing on the Friday, Wednesday at a corporate meeting at Atlantic talking about budgets, Thursday going to hear maybe masses at work in the studio to hear the remix they're working on this. You're running, you're doing everything, and balancing and all about balance and not get burnt out either. You didn't get burned out, huh?
And not to mention getting married and having 3 kids.
Well, that too. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to and the dog and the house and doing all that stuff. So the 90s go on, you play, and Shelter goes through ups and downs, of course. Lost spaces, moved, and everything changes. When did you leave, or should I say move to Elektra? When was that transition happened?
Well, what happened was I was at Atlanta 91, and we were doing really well. And I went to Sylvia Rohn, who was the president of our division at that time, and I said to her, I was like, we have #1 records at Atlantic, not #1 R&B records, but pop records all the time. Why are we just overseeing the urban division? We should be executives overall at the company. So long story short, they gave us our own label, which was East West Records. And we started East West Records, which was distributed through Atlantic, and had great success there over 3 years, became a #1 company again. And because of that, they gave us the ability to take over Elektra Records.
Okay. And of course, you're like a Formula One driver. You guys come in for #1s. You don't like number 2 and 3. It just seems like you just want #1 this and #1 that. And how many years you stood at Elektra till you ended there? Oh, Merlin will come back to us again. Must be the hot air with the Wi-Fi. It's slowing down, or the little squirrels that keep the wheels moving. But I think Mr. Merlin Bobb is back. Merlin, you back with us? You there? Mr. Merlin?
Lenny, you there?
Yep, we're here. I was saying there's the squirrels outside. They're slowing down the wheel. The wheel's slowing down.
Now,
What I was saying was, how many years did you last with Elektra? So that was to How long were you there? What
Electrical, I was
facility?
there until 2008, I think it is, or 2000, somewhere around there. I was there for, yeah, for almost 12 years or more. Overall, I spent 25 years as a music executive. And since then, I've been consulting. So, like any job you do for that long, and if you, you know, do it well enough, you can go on and start consulting. And that's why I've been able to come back over the years and, start DJing again, start doing some ancillary businesses that we've had outside of the um, music. I've owned restaurants, other nightclubs like Greenhouse. Greenhouse for us was like huge for years. It was definitely not the Shelter model, but we've owned other clubs, Juliet and Greenhouse, which is a big hip hop and EDM club during its time. Probably number one and number two in the country during that time. So I was able to do a lot of other ancillary things in the entertainment business side, and still consult and work with the labels, and spend more time with the family.
Merlin, why come back to DJ? What was the big, you know what, I really want to do this again? Because you get to a point in your life, you're doing the corporate, you're owning restaurants, let's put it like this: entrepreneurship, consulting. You're very, at this stage, 25 years of corporate level mentality is drilled into you now. So you're not the same kid that went to Prelude Records. You're much more seasoned, professional, and has a lot under his belt now. Why come back at this stage? What was the driving force for that?
um, like I said, I was definitely convinced from my peers, from our anniversary party. But more than anything, there's nothing I get more enjoyment out of than DJing. It's like
Really?
something that even when I was an executive, I was still traveling to Japan whenever I could, traveling to London, still DJing. I had to stop, which I did for over like 15 plus years. I didn't play at all because I was just too busy. I just couldn't do it. But every time I'd go to a club, I still went out once in a while. I still went to the shelter parties, and it was just kept calling me. It's just like something that I loved from a teenager, and it was the most enjoyable act that I can possibly do. And it brings me a lot of fulfillment and joy, not just for the music aspect of it, but for the culture. And one of the reasons I'm doing it now also is not just, I'm DJing now for fun.
Yeah, I
Um,
kind of thought that. Yeah.
but more importantly, I want to be a part of the history of how this genre moves forward, and that the history of it is accounted for properly. And I want to be a part of making sure that happens right. I would love to see us have a hip hop museum. I mean hip hop house music museum here in New York or Chicago or wherever it is, as long as it's in the States, would be great. There's so many things that I like to see accomplished, and so many people that have been instrumental in bringing this genre, which is worldwide now, which is one of the, if not the first or second, in the top three, let's say, of genres worldwide, is house music / dance music. So, it's important for me to be a part of how this history is shaped and developed and grows over the years, and how the culture, molds that. And I want to be a part of that in whatever way possible,
You
which is,
already are. What are you talking about being part of it?
well,
I
I
mean,
just want to be a part of it going forward. It's important to me, because I just started realizing, I didn't really realize this until now, to be honest with you, that we really created. When I say we, I'm not just talking about us in
no,
the room. I'm talking
yeah,
about Chicago and Jersey and
New York.
Baltimore and we started a genre of music that has, created a lot of, number one, joy for the world and people in it. People love the music. It's always been a music that's positive in every way. And it's also fulfilled so many dreams, this genre of music, with producers, writers, artists, labels, entrepreneurs, etc. Um, so I'd like to see it continued, and it's, you know, it's Black and Latino music. I want to make sure that that is understood. You know, it definitely is. It all came from us in our bedrooms. It's those guys men and women in Chicago and men and women in New York. It came from our bedrooms, and it just feels good to be a part of it now, because I never really, all these years, I never really thought of how the effect was that we just did in our rooms would have on the world. You know?
Right. I mean, again, Tony Humphries traveling the world, one of the first to travel the world with this music.
Yeah.
Timmy doing what Timmy did, you doing what you did, all the other brothers and sisters that were a part of this whole thing. Frankie Knuckles. I mean, the list goes on. David Morales, and such, on and on. And I've had a couple people ask me before you came on the show, and they always mentioned to me about Shelter Records, Freddie Sanon. What was the difference between the Shelter, the club, opposed to the record label? Were you also involved with that as well, or that was separate?
No, I helped Freddie set it up, because Freddie had a partner then, because Freddie was responsible for, actually, Freddie came up with the name Shelter. He was the one, because we were trying to figure out what are we going to name this place, And he's like, listen, I see all these shelter signs around the city all the time. And we always talk about, we want this place to be their home. So we should call it Shelter. And we were all three of us like, okay, sounds good to us. So yeah, Freddie was responsible for that. But Freddie is an entrepreneur too. So he wanted to start the label, or the record label started of it. And I, helped him in the beginning. I gave him Kerry Chandler. I gave him Roland Clark. I gave him all these artists that I had given production deals to at Atlantic. I gave him to start the label. And with Kerry, Kerry came to see me. He was a teenager. And I said, bro, we opened up a club. He's like, I want to produce. I was like, okay, we open up a club. If you can come up with a theme song for us, I'll give you a production deal. And he came up with that song, which was the Shelter song. And I gave it to Freddie as his first release. So Freddie has always been the hands-on with the label. And Timmy and I have always been the hands-on with the club.
Gotcha. Because people have been asking me for that, to that definition of, which hat each person's playing in this game.
But we're all family,
Oh yeah, no, of course. I mean, of course, everybody's family. Because even at that time, you had Kevin Hedge with you guys too, back in the day, right? Was Kevin around? Blaze. Mm-hmm. So you had Kevin Hedge right in there from Jersey. I mean, it's like, talk about family. It was, Timmy signed Blaze. You're signing, the other guys. If you're not putting it out on Atlantic, it's going to Freddie Sanon. Because I remember Freddie would say to me, yo, man, what you got? What you got? That was Freddie, always looking for that new track because he wanted to put something out. It's like, what do you got? What do you got for me? What do you got for me? You go come to the club. Freddie want always some tapes. He want, I need something for the label. So, I understand now what was going on. When you're behind the turntables, Freddie's trying to make and strike deals. He's playing A&R man, hanging out, and it's a crazy way of doing business, but it worked back then. Guys, brothers and sisters, children of dance music, could not get a better interview to understand how all this happened. And the best of it all, as this is all becoming part of the everyday landscape, these fellas are out doing Prince, and they're doing this, and they're doing big A&R deals with these type of records, but yet their heart is still in the underground. It's crazy. Craziness. Merlin, I mean, when Merlin comes back, I want to ask him where his life is going to take him now, because he's a consultant. He's got so many great things, and he looks great. I don't care what anybody says. Merlin still looks like a kid. It's incredible. They say it don't crack, and it's true. The man looks fabulous. Okay? I hope he's hearing me. Merlin, I'm giving you so many compliments. I don't know if you heard not one of my compliments. I said, the man still looks like a kid. Okay, you. I said also, while you're playing in the underground, you're also working with like Prince and Armin Edigan. You know what I mean? You're doing all this great stuff. And you don't even realize you're in your own goldfish, pond, microcosm. But yet the rest of the world is looking at you guys like you're gods. Gods, dude, at that time. Gods. So because you created this then, I know what you're hoping for now. Where do you see yourself going forward with business-wise? Are you still going to play in the A&R game? Are you still looking for those young acts? Or are you just doing the consulting and being entrepreneurial? Hope you heard my question. Let's see. Well, everyone, maybe we took all the energy out of Merlin's Wi-Fi. Maybe it's time we have to say good night. And thank Mr. Merlin Bobb because maybe he just shared too much information. And I know you don't want it to end, and everybody loves, remember everybody. If you one thing you can always remember is if you want to do something great, okay, you got to do it from your heart. If you don't do it from your heart and you don't have the love for this thing, you can't never be a success. You have to do this from your heart.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
And Merlin Bobb has proven that seems to be the first thing that you go with, your heart and your gut instinct, not your brain, because it sounds like you do this from this centerplex right here. I was asking you before your Wi-Fi and the squirrels died outside because of the heat. Are you going to be able to still A&R like you used to and keep doing what you do? Or are you just saying, I'm leaving that aside, I'm going to DJ, I'm going to consult, and I'm going to be entrepreneurial? Or are you still looking for that next big artist? Are you still doing that?
No, I'm not actually. I'm moving on. I'm an entrepreneur in other businesses now outside of music. And that's why I have the ability to DJ now. My music will now consist of my music. I mean, me DJing. And I'm
I
finding
can't go bang. Wait, Merlin. I can't go banging you office, bro. Please sign this, please.
Well, the bottom line is if I hear something that's amazing, I still can consult, so I can still take it in, but I'm not actively looking out for anything right now. I'm more concerned with, my son is an entertainment attorney, and so I help him out, and if I find something, I'll give it to him. But outside of that, I'm having so much fun and enjoying listening to the music that's out now, DJing now. I don't DJ a lot. I DJ when the opportunity calls. Like I'm DJing this Sunday, I think. Yeah, Sunday for Little Ray at
All right, Little Ray
Jamboree thing. And so I'm doing it, for fun and doing, for friends, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm really into it. It's so funny. I felt like I was 16 again. Like I'm calling up Louis, yo, man, what's those tracks you're supposed to send me? I'm calling up David Morales, like, yo, bro, send me that music. Yeah, I feel like I was back then. Like I'm doing that now, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. So, but yeah, it's just about, enjoying that. And, I have a 16-year-old. I got to get through college now. I got my other three through. So, there's a lot of other things going on that are important to me now outside of just the A&R aspects of things. But, I'm always open to, and my door was always open, and people will tell you.
It's true, everybody. It's true. Because Marshall told me that Merlin always had time for our records to listen to everything. He always say that.
My door is always open to hip hop artists and producers and those that wanted to, R&B or dance or whatever your genre was, and whoever you were, as long as you were sincere about, your craft as a music person, my door was always open, and whatever opportunities that I could give, I would, and I'm still that way now. Like I said, I want to do what's best for the culture of dance, but I'm still.
You've already done it, bro. If you do nothing, you've already cemented that. So anything more to that is just like putting proponents on it.
Well, that's why I say I want to be here for. There's a lot of young DJs have contacted me in the last 6 months or more, and I've given them advice. I've given them music. I've given them direction. Which I have no problem doing because I think it's very important, like I said, for this culture and the genre to continue to pursue the kind of and for them to pursue the kind of accomplishments that I was blessed to be able to have. I want to see the next generation of Merlins out there get those opportunities and do the same, because it definitely changed my life. It changed my family's life, my mother's life, my cousin's life, my aunt's life, everyone that was around me. It changed a lot of people's lives.
Everybody remember, don't forget, Tony and Merlin, cousins, bro. Cousins for life, cousins, family, Timmy, all of them. They did it together, came up together, made history together, all made their own historical road paths of success in their own. Each one of you have your own major stories. Each one can write your own book on what you did, what you contributed, who you turned on. It's never ending. We can't thank you enough.
It's funny. I told you when I was 16, Tony, and I said to him, that's what I want to do. When he told me, explain to me what A&R person does. That's what I want to do. And he said to me, Negro, you crazy? There's no black people doing that shit at major labels. Yeah, that ain't gonna happen, bro. Let's keep doing what we're doing. I was like, okay, but
that sounds just like him. That sounds just like he would say that. He sounds just like him. Well, you can't.
But for years afterwards, he was like, every time I'd see him, he'd be traveling everywhere, and we get together. He's like, yeah, I know, I was wrong. You were right, I was wrong. And he's like, I don't care. I'm just happy for you. And that's all that matters, that he was happy,
And I just want to say to you, thank God, Merlin, for all you guys, brothers. All of you guys did it. And you turn on thousands and thousands of DJs all around the world to go on and make all these records. And it's never ending. Lord knows how many people's careers, not just touching them, but just because you were on the radio or doing something that sparked someone to jump off of and used you as a muse. You know what I'm saying? They used you as a muse. Like we looked at David Todd and Larry Patterson, all those people.
Yeah.
They look at you as like, yo, man, I want to be like Merlin Bobb, bro. I want to be like Timmy Regisford. I want to be like Tony Humphries.
Honestly, I didn't realize that, to be honest with you, until now.
I'm telling you now. If you don't know, you're gonna hear it from me. This is what I'm saying. There's many brothers that need to hear you say what we did is what we did because we loved it, not because we were trying to do anything else. You weren't thinking about no cash. It was not about money back then. It was just like, right? Strength to strength.
We just wanted to do what we loved and do it well.
strength to strength, gig to gig, gig to gig. Merlin, the top 3 all-time records for you that you played. Top 3. Or it's one.
Yeah.
1 or 3, whatever. Your top 3 that you say, wow, every time.
That's a hard one, man. One that comes to mind, the first one that comes to mind is Optimistic by Sounds of Blackness.
All right.
And wow, that's a hard one, bro.
I know there's so many, right? There's so many.
That's like when people ask me my favorite artist, I say I have no.
I don't even want to ask that question because you kind of answered it.
You know,
You said Shaka Khan, you were gobsmacked. There's nothing.
Oh yeah, well,
yeah, that's like done. Okay,
yes.
so that's out of the way. We all know that he loves Shaka Khan, so take that out of the way. I know you, I live you. Done. Out of the way. Next.
But yeah, that Optimistic always comes to mind for some reason. That song just like it. When I would come to the club and I'd be like, oh man, I've been up for almost 24 hours and I got to play for 10 hours now. And I'd put that on and I'd be good to go after that. Like it was just inspiring.
If I remember correctly, my memory serves me right. Was it your night or Timmy's night that you had Sounds of Blackness there at the club?
Tim's.
Right. That's what I thought. Wow, that's going back like 1991.
Yeah, that was our first year.
Right. I remember the advertisement. You were bringing Sounds of Blackness, and we're like, whoa. Who the hell has that kind of coins? I'm thinking in my mind, like, who has got those kind of coins?
You know, the thing is, Timmy's younger brother, Junior, registered. You know, Junior, he got into the business too, but he moved to LA and, you know, he worked for A&M. So his artist was Sounds of Blackness. So, you know.
How many years younger is Junior than you and Tim?
Like 3 or 4 years.
So he's coming up on you guys watching you guys.
Yeah, he was in the room with us too all the time. So
who else is in that room? Einstein? Who the hell else is in that room? There's like who else is
my brother, I have a younger brother. He lives in Germany. He's 16 years. No. He's 20 years younger than me. And because my father got remarried when he moved in Germany. And when he was a teenager, he came to stay with me all the time. And I had him interning at Atlantic. I had him doing a lot of stuff. Now he works in the music business in Germany, and
Oh, we lost. Oh, Merlin. Wait, come back, Merlin Bobb. The Merlin the Wizard. Come back, please. We want to get the last part. Diabolically, one of the best stories of the music industry, told by one of the best in the game. There's so many greats that we've had on this show. I mean, it's just such a pleasure to be able to have such a iconic guy like Merlin Bobb. It tells us about Junior Regisford, Timmy's younger brother over at A&M, doing that. And at the same time, we're going to get to know about Merlin's younger brother from Germany. Merlin, what's your younger brother's name? Merlin? Hello? Merlin Bobb? Okay, put him back. Merlin? Hello? Uh-oh. We wanted to say, Merlin, what is... We want to get the name. Anyway, everyone, True House Stories is back, full powered. I got to get some new squirrels outside the house to help us with the Wi-Fi because it's killing us. Merlin, we didn't get to hear your younger brother's name.
Reuben Bobb.
And Reuben works where now?
He's at he works with a label out in not a label. He works in the business out in Germany, and he's also a DJ there. So yeah, whoever was hanging out around us, you know,
became DJs.
Yeah.
became DJs just by the infectious air that was just around you guys. Damn. How come I wasn't in that room? I should have been up in that room. Damn. Well, Merlin, you covered everything. I mean, as far as what we can get, we extracted a lot of information that we've never heard before. And the other thing is I know Tony's part Cuban. Is that means you're part Cuban as well, or no?
Colombian.
Colombian. Sorry,
Hmm.
you're also Colombian as well, right? Part Colombian.
No. That's on his
Father?
mother's side.
Mother's side. Okay.
Hmm.
And his father was a band leader too.
My family's from my father's. I mean, I'm sorry, that's from his father's side. Sorry.
Father. That's right.
My father's side is from Trinidad.
Ah, West Indian blood. Okay.
Timmy's Trinidadian too.
Yes, I know. West Indian blood. All right. I think you have covered a monster amount of information in 2 hours.
Yeah,
And
thank you, bro.
I can't thank you enough. And thankfully, we got to hear it from you, explain it and break it down. It's been absolutely one of my best to enjoy hearing this broken all down like this. Incredible.
Well, thank you for the platform to be able to do so. And like I said, this is, I do it now. Normally, I don't do these things too often.
No, I know. I don't
And
think there's any interviews with you. I looked around. There's not many. I mean, this is like a very, I had to go through a process, everybody. I had to send him some others that he had to see first. He said, okay, I'm going to do it now. I was like, really?
I had to do this on the other side, on the, executive side all the time. So I'm kind of gave myself a break from it, but this is important to me, and the culture, like I said, is important, and the music is important, the people are important, and the future of it is important. So whatever I could do to inspire or to move the needle forward, I'm here,
Hold him to that, everyone. Follow Merlin Bobb, please. Follow him and cheer him on as he makes this DJing career again to penetrate and kill it again. Because we need people like him to help break all the records that we all make. Because you know damn well I'll be handing you my tracks.
Of course.
Bob, and you'll be like saying, yo, I can't work that, but that one I like, or this and that's the way it is. Because if you loved everything we all did, you'd be lying to us.
Of course.
That's not what we want. We want the realness.
Of course.
Where do we follow you? Everybody's asking the question. Where do we follow you?
I'm at DJ Merlin Bobb. DJ Merlin Bobb on what do you call it? On Instagram.
And Merlin Bobb is at Club Shelter and also at Club Shelter, New York City, right?
No, I just changed that. So
no, what? I just put this up. wait.
So now it's at DJ Merlin Bobb. That's all.
Double B at the end, everybody. Not B-O-B, B-O-B-B.
Right.
All right. Send him your love. Send him your messages. Follow him. I don't have to tell you how talented this man is. This man is badass. There ain't no better than this. This is where it comes from. So that all you think that can play music, check him out. And check out his old mixes on YouTube. They still hold weight. Those old classic house mixes. He was breaking records before they were even out. So you got to realize, if you hear like a Moody or something, most likely he was playing it before it was out. Okay? So follow Merlin Bobb. And good night, everyone. And we'll see you all next week. Merlin Bobb, do not leave us. And thank you again for tuning in to True House Stories. Peace.